Welcome, everybody, to the September 16th edition, episode 5, of the Spicy Salsa Podcast. A lot of things to talk about today. We got Dragon Ball Fighter Z news, some Sonic Forces, the NES Classic debacle again, Catherine 2. We'll be talking about GameStop's new Elite program. A little bit about Destiny 2. I decided to purchase it, so I'm going to give you my thoughts, my review, essentially. And the, not new, but since I touched upon it before, the Overwatch reporting system and where it's going from here on out, and how it's been actually working recently. And we'll get to that at the end. And then stay tuned afterwards, and we're going to go on check out the aftertaste for all of my thoughts on everything that was announced at the Nintendo Direct. So, let's get started with Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Now, I literally just added this news, and I wanted to touch upon it first because it's going to be short. I added this news right before I started filming this because it, as of, like I said, September 16th today, this news just got announced. I think today's the day of the beta for Dragon Ball Fighter Z as well, so a lot of people are playing the beta. I hope they're having fun with that. It's going to be an awesome game. It's interesting to see all these people discovering like Axes and or Arc System Works now too. Because before, like I always say, like they had like Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear was very niche, or a cult kind of community, kind of like Atlas and Persona and stuff like that. But now that it has the name for Dragon Ball, a lot of people are discovering this company, which is really good because it's a really great company to discover. Anyways, so we got a I don't know if I don't think it was really a leak. It was just released in a Japanese Shonen Jump, V Jump as they call it over there, with scans or pictures for Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and we got a picture of a new character named Android 21, which is interesting, and Yamcha and Tien, which I'm not surprised they're in it either. I really am wondering how many characters they're going to add to this, because usually with art games, they only, their fighting games, they only have like 8, 9 some characters, and then it grows as the series goes on. But with Dragon Ball, since there's already so many established characters, obviously they're doing way more than just 8 or 9 characters. Or at least it's going to be a decent amount more, because we've got, what do we got so far? We've got the 3 villains that Boo, Frieza, Cell. That's 3, and then Goku, Vegeta, Teen Gohan. That was like the original ones that we saw. Piccolo, Krillin, so that's 8. Yamcha, Tien, Android 21, who we don't know if is a support character or a playable character. My money's on playable character. I saw like some people thinking support character because they're not an original Dragon Ball character. Well, in Persona, 4 Ultimax, you had like Shu, is that his name? I can't remember. The red-haired villain, the antagonist, and he was playable. So I don't think this is a support character. I think this is going to be a playable character. That would kind of make it less interesting. So Yamcha and Tien, they look fine, whatever. They're Yamcha and Tien. I really just wanted to really quickly talk about Android 21 because it is a new design. It is a female too. And she was designed by Akira Toriyama himself, and she looks really good. Like, I like her design a lot. It's different from normal Dragon Ball character designs, but at the same time, it fits in pretty well. She's got kind of I don't know, like almost like a sassy, nerdy look to her. She's got long, wild red hair. This got like a dress, a skirt, or I don't know, whatever. It's got checkered colors that are red and blue, which I really like the color for that. Some just regular like tights, kind of like Vegeta, would wear when he had his sand armor on, and then she's got like these little high heel boots. She looks very casual. It's interesting. She doesn't kind of like how Android 17 and 18, and really, well, I want to say all the androids. Yeah, I mean, even the non-canon ones like 13, 14, 15. Well, 15 doesn't have a shirt, but um and then 8 Android 8, he just looks like well, okay. So, Android 8 looks like Frankenstein's monster. 13, 14, and excluding 15, he doesn't have a shirt, but 13, 14, they have like casual clothes. So yeah, the androids do kind of have a casual look, but she looks a little bit more casual, like Android 17, 18 style. Android 16's got like some weird armor. Android 19 and Dr. Gero 20 they look like they belong in the Ringling Brothers circus. So, yeah, she looks really good. We don't know, like I said, we don't know if she's going to be a support character or not, but I really like her design, so I just wanted to touch upon that really quickly. And I also do think it's very cool that Tien and Yamcha are in the game, because even though Yamcha is and somewhat Tien as well are seen as kind of like a joke, I've personally always really liked them. I mean, there's not a lot of characters from Dragon Ball actually, I don't know if there's any characters I don't like. So that's all I really got to say about Dragon Ball FighterZ news for right now. I hope the beta is going well for everybody, and if you're playing the beta, leave a comment down below. Let me know how that is. I didn't get access to it. It was limited access. You had to sign up and then hopefully get an email or whatever. So let me know how that's going, and let me know what your thoughts on Android 21 are, because I think her design is great. It's actually, out of all the androids, one of my favorite designs that I've seen so far. And actually, real quick, I also wanted to add to this, before we move on to our next topic, which is Sonic Forces, that she is going to be a part of the story mode. It's going to be part of like a what if story, which I brought up before when I was talking about, I think, the collector's edition for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like what would the story be, if it's going to be like Blaze Blue style or what. And obviously, so now we're getting what if stories, so that kind of answers that question. I don't know if they're just going to play the regular Dragon Ball story and then do what if stories, or how this is going to work. We're still kind of learning some things, but that did give us a little insight. So anyways, let's move on. Sonic Forces. This is another kind of quick topic, but I haven't talked a whole lot about Sonic Forces, not as much as I actually would like to. So I did want to talk about the bonus edition that was revealed, which looks very cool. And then I also, after we talk about that, there's something else I want to get into. But let's talk about this bonus edition really quickly, because it looks good. And with Sonic Forces only being $40 and this just being a pre-order bonus, basically, you just pre-order the bonus edition and you get it. I think it's a really good pre-order bonus or bonus edition. So, depending on what console you get it on, you get a controller skin. So, if you get it on the Switch, you're going to get stickers for the 2 Joy-Cons and then the little middle part. If you get it on Xbox, you'll just get one big sticker for that controller. Same with PlayStation, whatever. And it's got Sonic on the left side and Infinite on the other. So, it's like Team Forces versus Team, whatever Infinite's team is called. Eggman's team, whoever is on what team, I don't know. And then you get 5 outfits for in-game, for your custom character, which is kind of neat. I never even really thought about that, since they're going to have the custom character. They're going to have exclusive outfits or special outfits. So you've got one that is a hat from Puyo Puyo, Jet Set Radio outfit, which looks like Beat from Jet Set Radio, a Super Monkey Ball outfit, which is just basically I. An outfit from Nights into Dreams, obviously, and then the most intriguing one was the Persona 5 outfit, and I love Persona. I thought that was really cool and interesting. It's the outfit of the thief, just the main character in his Phantom Thief outfit, because I forgot that Sega bought the parent company of Atlas a few years ago, so they have some relations with Atlas, and they can have some relationships with Persona 5. I think they're making a profit off Persona 5, because Sega owns the parent company, so that's really cool. But then, so we have this bonus edition, but then I want to talk about Sonic Forces really quickly, and the unfortunate truth of the matter is, and I hate to say it too, I feel like Sonic Forces is going to very much get overshadowed by Sonic Mania, because Sonic Forces, if they had just announced that by itself, looked like a pretty good game, for a Sonic game at least, compared to what we've been getting in recent years for Sonic games. And I think that's all really people asked for, was a game kind of like that. But then Sonic Mania comes along, and it's so good. Sonic Mania is so good, and it's a retro style Sonic game, so it's not any different, but it's still a Sonic game. It's amongst the same franchise, so it's gonna be people. Personally, I don't necessarily compare them because the 3D Sonic games play a lot different, but if we're just looking at it from even this perspective, Sonic Mania is the best 2D Sonic game. Like, it's just that amazing. Or at least it's in the talks for it. Whether you agree with that or not, I think that many people will argue that it is the first. Like, that's the impact it's had, or the first is in it's the best. And then with Sonic Forces, I look at it and you kind of have to think like, well, it's still like a platformer, and it looks really good. But now with Sonic Mania out, it's gonna get a lot of comparisons, and a lot of people might actually say this one is shit. So I want to try to be open-minded as it comes out, because Sonic Forces I don't think will be as good as Sonic Mania from a gameplay perspective. As a Sonic game, maybe, like in terms of atmosphere and getting the story. It depends on what you look for in Sonic games, but from a just game developer perspective, like the idea of like, does this bring new things to gaming? Does it do like, new things and stuff? Sonic Forces isn't going to do anything new. And I think the thing with Sonic Mania is that when it was very first announced, a lot of people didn't think, well, it's not really going to do anything new. It's just going to kind of be like Mega Man 9 and 10, where it's a neat little retro style Sonic game, but it actually did a lot of really new things, not just for 2D games or those 2D retro style games, but just for gaming in general. And the story behind how Sonic Mania was created and stuff is a story that you could write a book about in and of itself. So, unfortunately, that's kind of where I'm at with Sonic Forces. I still think it looks pretty good, but I've already started to hear people being like, Sonic Forces looks like shit. And I'm like, oh, I feel kind of bad, because I don't actually think it looks like shit. I think that just compared to Sonic Mania, it doesn't look like as innovative for a Sonic game. Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces, when they were first announced, Sonic Forces was seen as basically just Generations 2. It wasn't seen as it's going to be this big improvement for Sonic 3D games. Sonic Mania was seen as basically Sonic 4 excluding the real-life Sonic 4. And that it wasn't going to necessarily improve anything for 2D Sonic games. It was just going to be a really good 2D Sonic game. Well, Sonic Mania comes out, and it really improved things for 2D Sonic games, and we saw that coming as more and more trailers came out, and we got more news. But with Sonic Forces, it is still looking like it's basically just going to be Generations 2. And I'm okay with that, but I know that, yeah, for a lot of people, they're really going to compare that to Sonic Mania, and it's kind of a fair comparison. You could also make some arguments that it's not, but that's where we're at with Sonic Forces. I'm still really looking forward to it, but I wonder how it's going to be received when it comes out, and if Sonic Mania is actually going to hurt its reputation in a way. Because, like, if this game had come out last year, I think people would have been like, oh, yeah, this is great. This is good for Sonic franchise. They're getting back on, track or whatever, but since it's coming out the same year as Sonic Mania, it actually looks worse by comparison. So, anyways, let's move on again to our next topic. So I do this podcast. I try to do it every 2 weeks, right? So This news came out right after I filmed the last one. And it was basically, well, it wasn't really like a news story. Well, it became a news story, but it was just me on Twitter seeing that the NES Classic was trending, or the SNES Classic rather, was trending again. I was like, oh boy, what is it this time? So, we found out a lot of these pre-orders went live, and then all of a sudden it looked like it was another shitstorm. It looked like Nintendo didn't have enough of them. Like, they went live on Amazon, Best Buy, um, whatever retail store you can think of. They all went live, and they all sold out instantly again. And I thought to myself, oh shit, here we go again, you know? But then, just a few days ago, earlier this week, um, remember it's September 16th, so earlier this week, Nintendo actually, well, Reggie Fils-Aimé, he did an interview. It was actually, it was either an interview or like some kind of press release. I have it on my phone here. Let's take a quick look. From GameSpot. Here's an article from GameSpot, which I just backed out of. Basically, Nintendo had come out. I do think it was specifically Reggie Fils-Aimé, if I remember correctly, and he was basically like, "Look, first of all, it wasn't our fault, Nintendo's, that is. It was just the retailers posting it on their site, whether they want to get a one-up on the competition or whatever. We don't really know, like, what happened or why they keep doing this, because this is the second time, remember. The first time this SNES shitstorm happened was when Walmart's went live, and everybody pre-ordered it from Walmart. It sold out right away, and Nintendo told Walmart, you have to cancel all those. We didn't tell you you could do that. So there's something interesting going on there. But here's from GameSpot. Their article, Nintendo's NES Classic Edition will be back in stock again next year, alongside plans to expand on the planned availability of the SNES Classic Edition. Nintendo has announced that it will revive last year's NES Classic Edition, assuming you haven't yet resorted to the buying system at an exorbitant price. You will have a chance to pick one up at retail price in stores next year. Few specifics were shared, but we know the NES Classic Edition is coming back to at least North America and Europe. It's still a ways off. More information about the timing of the return of the NES Classic Edition will be announced in the future. Where did they say? So, yeah, basically, Reggie came out and he said it was the retailers who were doing that. Nintendo was like, that's not us. We know what our stock was going to be. But it sounds like some good came out of it. Whatever. Not only are we getting more SNES Classic editions, and I think, if I remember correctly, that's running into 2018, but then also next year into 2018 now, we will be re-getting the NES Classic Edition. That does beg a couple of questions, and I'm really proud of Nintendo for finally, figuring that out. But it does beg a couple of questions, as I was saying, like, will the cords be longer for the NES Classic Edition? Will it just be the exact same thing? Because the cords for the controllers were really short. That was one of the complaints. Will the games be different? Is there any kind of like licensing changes for that? The SNES Classic should probably just be the same. If there is a Nintendo 64 Classic, it's probably going to take longer to come out now, because it's looking like it probably won't be next year, because if we have the NES and the SNES Classic already coming out next year, we're probably not getting a Nintendo 64 Classic next year. Yeah, I think that's really all I wanted to touch upon with that. This podcast, or this segment of the podcast, if you're watching the full version or the short version on YouTube, whatever, but either one, was originally going to be like, oh god, Nintendo, why? But then they came out and fixed it, or rather, it wasn't necessarily going to be me bashing Nintendo, but it was going to be a little bit more of like me going, what is going on? Because it seemed a little, it did seem a little strange that Nintendo's like, we're going to have plenty more but then also at the same time they were selling out right away. It's also true that a lot of these will probably, in order to avoid scalpers, because that's been Nintendo's biggest problem with these classic editions and Nintendo's problems in the past, a lot more of these will probably be sold in stores than online, so keep that in mind, because if it's sold in stores, like I work at Target, for example. At Target, when these things happen, we can be like, we limit one per person, and we can keep an eye on that. We can make sure that that doesn't happen more often than not. There's always going to be someone who's like, I went to Walmart, and they have a picture on Twitter. They're like, look, I have 8 of them. And those are just the stores that fuck up. They just don't give a shit, and fuck them for doing that. But yeah, like good stores, like our Target or whatever, we always do that. So in order to avoid scalpers and stuff, Nintendo will probably be selling a lot more of them in stores than they are online. So let's move on. So this is another. I have a lot of it's hard to tell how long these segments will be before I upload them because it's all just on one audio track. But a lot of shorter segments today until the end. Because now we're going to talk about Catherine 2 and if it's going to happen. Now, I'll get to why I'm bringing this up in a minute, but let me just say, because I've never gone on record and said before, that the original Catherine was a very good game. I loved it. I bought it on the Xbox 360. I bought the special edition back in the day. I still have it. I have everything. I actually don't have the game on the 360 anymore. I have it on the PS3. That's because I had to sell the 360 version back in the day. So someday I'll get the 360 case again just to go with my 360 special edition or whatever. I bought it back in the day because I was really waiting for Persona 5, basically. I think Persona 4 Golden was announced at the time, I believe. Maybe it wasn't. I can't remember the years exactly. But if it wasn't, regardless, I was waiting for the next new Persona game, not a remake regardless. I was excited when Persona 4 Golden was announced, and that game is awesome. I recommend playing that as the definitive version of Persona 4 if you have not played Persona 4. Or if you have played Persona 4, there's a lot of new things in Golden. Anyways, Catherine. So, I didn't like the gameplay for Catherine looked different and interesting, but that's not really what intrigued me. There was a couple things. One, I was in high school at the time that came out, so I couldn't afford both a PS3 and a 360. Trust me, if I could have, I would have. So many games I missed on the PS3 because of that. Although I have one now. So, I was like waiting for the next Persona game. You had the fighting games coming out, the first one at the time, and so there was Persona things coming, but it wasn't Persona 5, which is what I was really waiting for. And we didn't usually get the Persona games on Xbox. They were always like PlayStation until like I said, the fighting game. And so Catherine was like, I was like, oh, a Shin Megami Tensei game is coming to the 360. I can actually play this one without having to play on my PS2 or I had 3DS ones. Like I really like Devil Survivor, so I played other Shin Megami Tensei games, but it just felt fresh, new. I knew it was Atlas, so I knew there was going to be a story. The animation looked nice, so I bought it. The original Catherine is a very good game, and I highly recommend playing it if you haven't. Why am I bringing this up? Because we did have, in Japan, a possible tease to Catherine 2. Now, I think Catherine 2 is going to happen someday. This is very vague, and it's hard to see if it was a tease, but I did want to bring it up anyways because I'm all for Catherine 2 and getting any voices out to support Catherine 2. And if I can do any help to that, I will. So, what do we got? There was a Golden Employment Special. I'm going to assume, from what I understand, I'm reading an article from Gematsu, if I'm saying that right. It was a 30-minute special broadcast in Japan featuring interviews and staff of Studio Zero in order to attract new recruits to the 2016 formed studio. This is the company that's making Project ReFantasy. If you haven't seen that, there's a couple of teasers. It's very intriguing to me. I'm actually curious to see what that will be. And at the end of this special, once all the commentary was done, they had Midnight Venus, who's the host of the... See, Catherine is like a it's... How do I describe this? So, you're playing the story of in game of Catherine, the story of a man named Vincent, but there's like this narrator outside as you're playing it, and it's telling you what you're going through. I'm trying to think of an example of like what's similar to that. Kind of like Princess Bride, how in Princess Bride you've got this, there's like the grandpa reading the book, and then they go to the story of the book, and then they go back to they're like, oh, and then what happened? It's kind of like that. So like Midnight Venus is the person like telling you this story, and then you go play this story or whatever. So Midnight Venus, she's once all the interviews are done, they show the Midnight Venus girl again, who was prevalent, or she was in some of the commentary sections, and she says, and this is the quote, she says, "By the way, I'm looking forward to the fantasy RPG, of course, that's Project ReFantasy that I just mentioned, but will there even be anything for me to do? Maybe a lot of you are actually wondering. This time, I will be the new heroine. Just kidding." And then there was a pause, and then she said, "The offer for my next job is on the table?" And it's a question, I guess, which is interesting. So it does seem like they're kind of teasing Catherine, too. And I really wanted to bring that up because that sounds exciting, actually. Out of all the Shin Megami... Well, there's a lot of Shin Megami Tensei games that people feel like deserve sequels. There's people who legitimately hate the Persona series only on one sole reason, and that's because Atlus focuses more on that than all their other franchises. So I'm not personally one of those people, but I do think that it would be an awesome idea to have a sequel to Catherine, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to if that's true. So, but anyways... let's move on to Destiny 2. My Destiny 2 review. So many of you, as I've heard, are spending countless hours in Destiny right now. It has been out for almost a week. Yeah, no, it's been out for a week and a half at this point. Jesus. Time flies when... Jesus. So, and a lot of hours have been spent playing Destiny 2 currently, and I wanted to give my thoughts on how I feel about it and my because I've never gone on record with my experience with Destiny. Some of you will like it, some of you won't. But let me know in the comments what you're thinking of Destiny, because I'm gonna have a different perspective, and for the people who really play Destiny, that's who I'd really like to see leave comments, just to see like what they say and maybe help me get into it a bit more, because I'm having some trouble. There's a lot of things I like. Overall I like the game, but I'm not like hardcore into it, and I have quite a few complaints about it. Anyways, so I decided to buy Destiny 2 because I've been waiting to have a game to play with friends. It is one of those games that you really do want to have friends to play with. You can play it alone, and it's still going to be entertaining alone, but not nearly as entertaining. You really should have friends to play it with. But even if not, go ahead and play it. It's entertaining as fuck. But entertaining is one thing, and good gameplay and design is another. And but we'll get into that. So I bought Destiny 2 because there's not a lot of like co-op-y games coming out in the next couple months, that I'll get to play with friends. A lot of the really good ones are single player too, like Mario Odyssey. We're gonna film that hopefully day one. I really want to film it day one, and put that on Spicy Salsa Gaming on this channel. But our Let's Play show, me and Josh will probably play that. That looks so good. I want to have like 50 episodes of Mario Odyssey. I want to do everything in that game. It looks amazing right now. Um but anyways, back to Destiny. So the story to Destiny 2, which was added because the first game had a lot of complaints about the story not making sense. It felt like it was just kind of there. Some people said they didn't even feel like there was really a story at all, which there is, but it's just Um so Destiny 2 for story, I don't have much to say cuz I just don't care. Like, you play the game and like you're going through some of these little cutscenes. It actually starts out kind of neat. I will say that. When I first started, I was like, "Oh, this is neat." There's some like epic little things, and and it doesn't take super long to get into the gameplay. Uh, but the story is it's just there to be there, and I know for a lot of people they're like, well, at least it has one. I'm like, sometimes I feel like games are better when they just don't, because there's a lot of moments where the story, like, people are talking and shit, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care about any of this story stuff. It's not a good story. It's just a bland, like, generic, well, at least it's there. And if you have to say to yourself, well, at least it's there, why even have it in the first place? Like, who cares? It was clear to me that they got all of this feedback to just have a story in Destiny 2, that they didn't really try too much on the story. Like, it seems okay, but it's not, like, let's take and God, I'm gonna get flack for comparing Halo 5 to Destiny, but let's take Halo 5 for example. So Halo 5 is a bad story. There's good concepts in Halo 5, but Halo 5 still feels like a story they tried at, and you're kind of intrigued because we've had good Halo stories in the past. So when Halo 5 comes out, you're like, oh, okay, I see what they tried to do there. It didn't really work. Destiny doesn't feel like that, though. Destiny just feels like characters talking to me, and I just don't care what they're talking about at all. Sonic Mania has a better story, or as far as I'm concerned, or something like that. So, do I want to commit to that? Yeah, I think I will. But like, maybe I'm not looking into it enough. Maybe some of you can help me out with that. But right now, I'm just not getting it. Like, I don't. Uh, maybe there's something there. It's kind of like with Dark Souls. At first, you look at it, and a lot of people are like, "There's not a story to Dark Souls," and it's like, "Oh boy, is there a story to Dark Souls?" There's so much story to Dark Souls, but it's just not really told throughout the game. Um, I don't really know which one I prefer. I probably prefer that more, but I'm starting to understand why a lot of people really don't like cutscenes and stuff. And it's not like Destiny 2 has a lot of cutscenes. It's not that, but it's just that, like, when you go and I don't mind the people like talking to me, but a lot of the missions and stuff, like the story missions, feel similar to just normal, like, side missions and stuff. It's just shoot, shoot, shoot till the cows come home, and if that's your thing, that's fine. And that's why I say it's entertaining. Why do I still play Call of Duty? Well, sometimes I go on Call of Duty just because I don't feel like taking a game seriously. I feel like just shooting things. It feels good in first-person shooters, and I just want to see, like, points rack up and stuff. And I feel like that's how I am with Destiny. Um, I've pulled some all-nighters. I have fun leveling up, which the level cap, we'll get to that. I have fun leveling up and stuff, and getting new weapons and things, and we'll get to that too. But overall, it's just like, because I just don't understand, like, why is this story here? And well, I do understand why it's there, but I'm like, why put it in there if they weren't going to try? I don't know. I guess they just thought people would be okay with it, and I don't know. I guess it seems like people are okay with it so far. Story isn't the main part to Destiny, in my opinion, but since it's there, I feel like I had to comment on it, and I just got to say it's bland. Um, uh, let's talk really quick before I get into some multiplayer, just because I brought it up. So the weapons and the leveling up. So you have a bunch of different classes, and leveling up gives you all these different little perks, but and the perks do some things, but I feel like the level is too low. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that one of the complaints about Destiny 1 as well? I don't know. I don't see anybody complaining about that yet. Maybe it's just because the game hasn't been out long enough, so people are giving it the benefit of the doubt. But for me, the level cap is way too fucking low. Like, you can get to level 20 in one day if you really play the game. Like, if you played it all day, you'd be level 20. And I don't know, maybe some people prefer that, but I got on, day 3. I bought it like the Friday after it came out, so I guess day 4, depending on how you look at it. So and everybody was already level 20. I'm like on the farm, which is your home place, and I really I actually like the home place a lot. And everybody was already level 20, and I was just like, oh wow, look at all these level 20s. And then it dawned on me once I got to like level 5, I was like, wait a minute, I haven't seen anybody past level 20. Oh, level 20 was the cap in the first game, wasn't it? So it's the cap in this one. I don't like that. I wish that Destiny's character system had more. You're thinking, well, there's not that many perks. I think if they expanded the perk tree and stuff and had more of a or more levels, a higher level cap, and and expanded the perk tree and really gave you the ability to almost Skyrim it, and create your own character with all these different like perks and character types, and you don't even need that many classes to do it. I mean, but I think that would make the game really special. But alas, it is still fun leveling up, and it is still fun purchasing the perks. It's just not something that's going to have hundreds of hours of gameplay for you unless you want to go through all the classes, but honestly, they're not. I mean, I guess they're different enough. They're different enough, but I feel like since this is an MMO feel, there should be a lot more to it. But I don't know. Once again, give me your opinion on that. That's just how I feel. I feel like it was too quick because I'm like, man, I'm having fun leveling up, and the moment you get to level 20, it's just like, eh. And then there's the whole silver thing, which, with the shaders, the way that they did shaders in the first game was that you could put a shader, which is just a color scheme, on a piece of armor, and it would change, like if you have a blue shader, it'll change it to like blue and gray or something. And then you could just put it on another armor, from what I understand. I didn't play the first Destiny a whole lot, but if I remember correctly and from what I've heard, that's how it worked. Well, now you have a limited amount of those shaders. If you put it on a weapon, it goes away. Sometimes you'll have like 5. So like you'll have like, if you have the blue shader, like I said, maybe it's a blue and gray color scheme. You can put that on like 5 different items before it disappears. So that's something. But the problem is that it requires silver, which is an extremely rare item in the game, to apparently acquire more shaders. And basically what they've done is gone this free-to-play kind of thing where you can buy silver with money. And it's like, so that's why they did it. So they sacrificed a good gameplay element, which is shaders, to make more money. They made it worse. And it is worse. I've heard a lot of people saying, like, oh, I don't have a problem with the shaders. It's worse. You might not have a problem with it. It might not be a big deal, and it's not. It doesn't change the gameplay or anything. It's just a customization feature, for an MMO game, but it is worse. That is a worse feature. Anyways, what else? So I really like the how it does feel like an MMORPG, but God, I'm trying to say positives without going to negatives first, but so I like that it feels like an MMO. I like the farm. I like how you can customize your character. I think complex enough that people feel a little different. One of my problems is that a lot of the armors feel the same. Like you'll unlock this new mask and it's like that looks just like the last mask. And a lot of them are. They're the exact same mask. They're just stronger defense-wise. So you're leveling up and you don't really feel like you have all these different options, Not until you get to level 20, which is when you can get more exotic and legendary items and stuff through, what are they, engrams? But even then, there's only so many engrams in the game, so I don't know. it's hard to say, like, but to me, it looks like a lot of the people kind of look the same, at least in terms of armor. In terms of their character, I think there's enough there. I still wish it was more. I wish what Destiny 2 feels like to me, and I think this was the thing with Destiny 1 as well, is it feels like an MMO that has everything that an MMO needs, but none of it is quite in depth enough. It's so close. And it's a first-person shooter, which is what makes it special. It's like a first-person shooter MMO with drop in, drop out. You explore galaxies, and everything's so close to being a big feel game, but it's not quite there. And I feel like people are really giving Destiny 2 some passes, just like they did the first one, because hype. The first Destiny was so hyped that you had two types of people. People who immediately admitted this is not what they were expecting, and you had people who I think they felt that way, but they didn't want to admit it because they had so much hype and so much hopes for this game, so they gave it the pass, and they're like, I'm all in on Destiny. And then I mean, I guess, of course, the third type of person, you just thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's fine. Of course, there's plenty of people that enjoyed it. They made Destiny 2 already, and they sell fine. I would say the majority of people that play it at least like it enough. I feel like Destiny 2 is getting some passes again, because they were like, well, we're gonna, make it so that, we're gonna add the story for you, just like you asked. We're gonna have more different things to do and more events, just like you asked, And they did, but it's still kind of like, nothing is still quite there. I think they missed some of the things that, like, they put those things in, but half-assedly so. But anyways, and then so we got the Crucible, the multiplayer. It's fine. You get to go in there with your own custom weapons and perks that you've equipped and stuff, so I don't know how balanced that really is. It doesn't feel super balanced, but balanced enough. You have a competitive mode and a casual mode for people who want to be competitive or just kind of use your own custom character and stuff. I find it really easy right now, but like, I had never played Destiny multiplayer except for when I tested it at a friend's house for the first game. And I won like my first 6 matches in a row. I was 6-0, and then I lost one. I lost 2. Then like after that, I won so many again, and so I don't know if that's just because like stronger weapons, or if it's not that balanced, or if it's because I'm used to first-person shooters. The multiplayer is hard for me to comment on as a fan of like esports multiplayers, and I think Destiny does have an MLG league. I don't know how balanced it is and how balanced casual is compared to competitive right now, and stuff like that evolves over time. But multiplayer is fun. I've actually had more fun in the multiplayer than I have in the main story. The worlds look nice. They're really nice worlds. But the missions oftentimes feel tedious, or rather, no, let me take that back. They feel the same. A lot of them feel the same. Like, there will be one that's just like, oh, kill all these enemies in one area. There's ones that are, you travel around and you go on kind of like a little adventure and kill enemies. There's not a lot to truly explore except for basically the scenery, but yeah, so, and then the most important thing, the gameplay, like, which we'll just kind of transition into that because this kind of goes along with that. It's mindless, numbing entertainment. It's like going to see a popcorn monster movie, It's not necessarily a good like movie standards, but you'll be entertained enough, and I think that's what Destiny just kind of is. For anybody who is like, it's better than this MMO or MMO, well, it's kind of hard to compare it to MMOs in terms of its gameplay, because it is a first-person shooter that basically just has the gameplay elements of Call of Duty, but with some extra customization. Well, even actually Call of Duty has a lot of customization at this point, so I don't even know if I want to say that, but comparing it overall to like any other MMO, like World of Warcraft or something, it still doesn't feel like it has the depth. I like Destiny 2 overall, but yeah, those are my issues, and those are the things I really like. I actually do like the worlds, the environments. Titan's kind of a bitch because that's a planet that it's just all water. It looks all right. They look nice. The thing is, like, I really want to explore these worlds in Destiny, right? But then, like, I realize, well, there's not going to be anything there. It's just going to look nice. Like, sometimes you'll find a little chest and it has something crappy in it that you don't know, like a little weapon or whatever, but it's not really that big of a deal. So that's my thoughts on Destiny 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see what people think of this one because I think there's a lot to be said. I've been reading things online. I've gotten some mixed opinions. I think for the most part, people are like, this is all we asked for. For me personally, I look for a little bit more in MMORPGs, but I'm curious to see what other people think. I'm not a hardcore Destiny fan, so for those who are, they can probably defend the game better and put some of my arguments to shame. And that's fine. That's what I want. I want people to convince me to like these things when I'm arguing against them. Trust me, I would much rather like Destiny 2 than have complaints about it, but it's just how I feel. So, anyways, finally, Overwatch Reporting System. This is kind of a follow-up to when I talked about it before. The Overwatch Reporting System, as we last time I talked about it, we were still in the state where it was on the PC and we hadn't got it on consoles yet. Well, now it's on consoles too. And Big Daddy, as they call him, Jeff, Jeff Kaplan, that is, he came out with a video talking about the reporting system and how it's basically been taking up a lot of their time, and they haven't been able to do certain updates to the game because they really want to just get rid of these toxic players, and that basically he wants to reassure people this reporting system is working. So, he let's see, where did he touch upon? So first he said that there was, and I would assume this is in reference to people saying like, oh, they could do it like other games, like I think Grand Theft Auto has this, where if you like kill so many people online, you just have bad behavior and stuff. They put you in your own special little server where all the bad people are, the people who get coal for Christmas, for Overwatch Christmas or whatever. He said, we don't want that in Overwatch. We just don't want these players at all. I really like that. I like seriously, if these people aren't going to respect the community of Overwatch and troll and stuff, and I like good trolls, you know, like there's some game, like I used to betray in Halo 3 and I found it fun, but in social, like I you know, that's one thing. Maybe if it's in social they could be a little more lenient, I don't know, but for me personally, he didn't really specify that. He's just saying for these people who grief or they throw or they have bad behavior, whatever, actions are being taken and they are just being permanently banned. And they really like slam the hammer down hard on this one. And I'm glad because Overwatch is a game that has so much potential for the future in esports and stuff. It does not need that. It really doesn't. It doesn't need that type of community. And I like how, unlike other games, like with Call of Duty, where you will get in a game and you just don't trust to talk to people because you just already assume, which is where Overwatch is kind of right now. A lot of people are afraid to talk because they're afraid of getting banned and stuff. You don't trust to talk to people, and they don't really do anything about it unless it's extreme cases. So, they're just basically, they're not thinking of money. They're not thinking of like how many people, they're not thinking of like their record of like, we have this many millions of players playing our game every day or whatever. They're thinking of one thing and one thing only, and that is helping get this community to be a positive community and really strike the hammer down hard on those who decide to not abide by those rules. And I really like that. I think that's really great for the community. You'll have to, once again, let me know in the comments what you think. If you think this is too harsh, or if you think this is really good for Overwatch, whatever you might think about this. Obviously, some people are going to be upset because they're like, well, you bought the game, you should be able to do this and that. And personally, I lean a little bit more on the side of like, well, yes, but other people also bought the game. You can't ruin their experiences as well, over and over and over again. So he basically said that 480,000 accounts have already had action taken against them. I don't know if that means they were banned or if they just got muted, like they couldn't talk and still play the game, whatever. It probably depends on some of those 480. And so that's basically about 1.5% of the community, not including the active community. I got this math from Your Overwatch. I watched their video on it, which I will link to in the description. Frito, I couldn't think of his name, at Your Overwatch basically did the math, by the way. He said, in the video, Jeff says 480,000 accounts have been banned. So what they did at Your Overwatch, or what Frito did, is he took that divided by 30 million players, which is what Overwatch's player base is. And that's about 1.5% of the community. So keep in mind that's also not active players. So anybody who decides to pop up, there might be some more bans if they're like, I haven't been on Overwatch and trolled in a while, and they don't realize the system's in place now. But here's the important thing that Jeff said is that 70% have come from player reporting. So the player reporting system they have in game. This is important because a lot of Overwatch fans were saying, hey, don't use the reporting system in Overwatch. It doesn't actually work. They don't actually do anything. Trust me, I've tried it. It hasn't been doing anything. Jeff is trying to reaffirm that is farther from the truth. I think he actually said exactly that now that I think about it. That 70% of the players who have been, of those 480,000 have come from the reporting system. So use it. Use it in the right way. We as an Overwatch community need to make sure that we are keeping this game positive and not using it just because somebody maybe isn't good at Hanzo and they're just playing Hanzo. You can't ban somebody for being a one trick. Let them fix the ranking system on one tricks before we talk about banning them, because you should be able to play whatever character you want and however long you want. It's annoying. I'm not a one trick personally. I hate it when I'm like, God, this guy just won't get off Torb or whoever, or Reaper, and that's all he ever plays, and it's really bringing the team down. You have to play around that character or whatever, and so that it works with your team. But that's not really ban-worthy. Ban-worthy is like people constantly trolling other people, screaming and yelling at other players, making them feel negative, and not just giving them that pat on the back that maybe they need to really succeed to win the game or whatever, or even just like yelling at, even if it's like one trick and yelling at them, whatever, that's the things we should be looking for. And I think that's what Blizzard is also looking for. But anyways, that does it for today's podcast. You can join me on the aftertaste where we're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct. I have some things to say about Mario Odyssey, because God, that game looks so good. And you can join me over there. I will put a link for the Your Overwatch video in the description. They did a pretty good job, Frito over there, and they always do, though, describing the ban system. And maybe I'll even put in a link for, the Jeff Kaplan's video on it, so you can see directly from him. I highly recommend watching that, too, about that. Let me know about Destiny, the Overwatch report system, what you think of Android 21. She looks awesome. I'm just gonna that's my opinion. That goes for everybody. I speak for everyone. Android 21 looks awesome. No, let me know what you think of that. The NES Classic debacle, Sonic Forces, anything that we talked about today. As again, guys, thank you for watching the September 16th edition of the Spicy Salsa podcast. You can watch some of our Let's Plays coming up soon. We've got Yakuza going. We're about to start God of War sometime. Mario Odyssey when that comes out. So check out Spicy Salsa Gaming. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you next time.